Okay, so now we have our settings screen, which means we are able to save the settings in this unit, I should say, into our database. Now we need to retrieve that so that we can change the structure of our app. Meaning, if we go back to our main, oh, that doesn't work. Let's fix that real quick. Okay, let's go to our settings screen. Yes, that's where we are. And we have our toggle. Okay, here we have a lambda. Let's say navigate. Oh, nav controller. Let's just pop backstack like this. All right. So, okay, let's go ahead and go back. And we go back to main. Oh, great. So what we want to be able to do is that in our main screen here, this is where things need to change, because remember, let's go back to main screen. This is where we are setting everything up. Remember, we have the CD and everything in our main screen that we're passing along, so that we know exactly, so that we get the information from that CD, so that we get the information from that CD, the data, the forecast for that CD. So this is also where we're going to create something else, right? So this is also we're going to set up the structure for our Fahrenheit. This is where we're also going to create this structure to set up our unit of measurement for our. This is where we need to set up. This is where we're also going to set up a few things. This is where we're going to set up our unit of measurement. Now, there are other things I need to do here. First of all, let's start with the. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's create another val here. I'm going to say unit from DB as such, and I'm going to say settings. Now, I don't have our settings view model. Well, how do I do that? Well, I just create it. I'm going to say settings view model is equal to hilt view model as such. Easy. Say now I'm going to say settings, use that view model, and get unit list, collect as state, as then get the value. Okay. And I'm going to create a variable here called unit. Make this a state also. I remember. And here I'm going to say mutable state of just Imperial to start with, like this. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another var called is Imperial, which is going to be a boolean, say by remember, immutable state of, say, false in the beginning. All right, we'll see all of that in action. So that means then I'm going to put everything inside of an if statement here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say if, I'm going to check if unit from DB is not null or empty. That's why I have this exclamation point there. If that's the case, then I'm actually going to get all of this inside this if statement. Okay. So if that's the case, if it's not null or empty, then I'm going to set our unit string. Remember, this unit is this variable here, which is a remember, which is a state, right, variable. I'm going to set that to, whoops, let's go back. I'm going to set that to our unit from database and get, because I know there's only one item in our list that we get from database, right? So I can actually do this. I can say the first item, which is going to be that object, the unit object, and I'm going to get the unit. And then if you remember correctly, the way we are saving these units, it's a little bit strange, but it's okay. It saves it at this. So Imperial, then F like that. So we want to get rid of all of these noise per se, so we just get the Imperial. Okay, you've seen this many times, me do this many times now. You should be very familiar. Let's see, where am I? Okay, there we go. And so now I'm going to actually split, right, that unit and split by where we have a space, right, an empty string. What I'm saying here, I'm going to split by here in the middle. Okay, and then get the first part of the list, get just Imperial. And what I want to do also, I want to make this lowercase, everything lowercase. And it's easy, just say dot lowercase, like that. And then in this case is Imperial boolean is going to be equal to whatever the unit is, if it's that Imperial. Right? So if the unit is Imperial that we're getting here, then that means Imperial is going to be true. Okay. So now that we have this unit, we need to pass it somewhere, right? Because remember, the unit is actually passed along the call, right? The URL, so that we can pass units, say Imperial or metric. We're doing all of this here because this is where everything is driven, meaning this is where everything happens, because this is where the get weather data is called. We pass in the city. In this case, we're also going to pass units here, which we'll set up in a second. And I'm going to pass my unit. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and first of all add a comma there. And we need to pass, create parameter. In our get weather, we have that units. That means our other get weather here, I'm also going to pass units, which is going to be our units, like that. So let's go ahead and create that parameter. Just say okay. And now if I go to this weather, notice that we have that units, which we need to pass along as well. After our query, say units, and pass the units. How fun. And in our get weather, you notice that we do have already the units there, which we have Imperial for its default. All right, so we had to trickle down to the main source of truth here to pass that units parameter, which already is there for the last one at least. So now our get weather is complete because it will have the API key or API ID and the units as well. Okay. Let's see if this works, because we did a lot of work and we don't know if this is going to work. But while I'm here as well, let's go back to our main screen. Get rid of these. Since we're here, looks like, let's see. We'll use this Imperial in a bit, but I'm going to, for our city, I'm also going to add a new variable here called cur city. So we have a default. So this is going to be a string, and I'm going to put an if statement here. If city that we're getting here, right, passing along, is blank, like this, then I'm just going to say Seattle. Else, we're just going to say, just get the city that we're getting. Okay, this is just going to complete everything so we don't run into issues. So now I'm going to use that current city. directly instead of trusting that this is not null, which it shouldn't be because we set everything up, but we always want to make sure that we have that safe net. So I pass this current city like this now. All right, let's go ahead and give it a run to see. All right, if we go to app inspection, we should see settings is Imperial. That's why we still see 67, 63 Fahrenheit. Now, if I go back here to settings and change it to Celsius, let's go back and see. And voila, you see now everything changed. Still San Diego, but now is in Celsius. That's good. If I go back and change to Fahrenheit, save, go back, it goes ahead and changes back to Fahrenheit. All right, it's working, but it's not complete yet, because if you look closely, we see that some units are still not working perfectly. Meaning, if I go to settings and I want, let's go back to Celsius. All right, Celsius, everything is Celsius, that's great, but you notice here it says 74 miles per hour, right? This should be meters per second, because now we're in Celsius. So that's a small thing we can change. And that's why we have this is Imperial. This is Imperial is going to be passed along in our main scaffold. I'm going to do it right now. That way we can then retrieve that boolean and change whatever we need to change here. All right. So let's say is Imperial. Is Imperial like this. And of course, we'll have to create that parameter. Just say, okay, refactor. And now if we go to our main scaffold, so if we go to main scaffold, you notice that we have is Imperial. What we're going to do actually is going to pass that along in our main content, because this is where we have, we'll show you everything else. So just passing it down is Imperial. Create that parameter, refactor, that's good. And it's passed down. Okay, now is Imperial. Where are we going to use that? Well, first we're going to use in this humidity. We're going to use inside of this row here, which is, scroll down, humidity, wind, pressure row. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. Is Imperial. I'm going to pass it along. And we need to just create that parameter. That's okay. Okay, I know, going down the stream, and voila. So now if it's Imperial, we're going to go down to this text, which is wind. I think that's the only place we need to change. Pressure icon, wind. So in our text here, instead of miles per hour, I'm going to change a few things. Actually, let's see. Humidity is miles per hour. This shouldn't be, that's not right. This should be wind. That's why I'm getting the wrong thing here. Let's see, weather dot speed. That's what I need. There we go. So I was getting the wrong. That's why you see 74 and 74. All right. That should be the correct property. All right. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an if statement. So let's say, let's just get out of here and say plus if is Imperial is true, then it's going to be miles per hour. Else, we're just going to say meters per second like this. All of that work just to change one thing. Developing. But it's okay, it's worth it. Let's go ahead and run. All right, and you can see because our settings is in Celsius, right, metric, you can see now it says 3.19 meters per second. Very good. If I go back and change to Fahrenheit, save, we're going to go hopefully see that is 7.14 miles per hour. And of course, we can always format this. I think I call this decimal formatting. Let's see, format decimals like this, I believe. Just wrap that around. Let's just run again. Okay, now it works. So 7 miles per hour because it's in Fahrenheit. If I change to Celsius, let's save that. Save. Okay, it's working 3 miles per second and it's working perfectly. I can go to Moscow. Save this. There's Moscow. I'm going to save to our settings. I can go to our settings. Voila. I don't want to change anything, but let's go to our favorites. Whoa, it's -5 Celsius. That's very cold. And let's see. Let's search 15 Celsius. Can change settings to Fahrenheit if I want to, and still works fine. Well, looks like we are finished with our project. I know it's been quite a journey. It's a long journey that we went through, but I hope it was helpful. I hope you were able to learn a lot. There's a lot of things that we went through, and I don't expect you obviously to know everything in one take. That's why we have these video lectures, because you can go back and work on things that you're not quite sure how they work, and you can always ask questions. You can improve upon this. There are a lot of topics that we touched on, and I hope that was helpful.